Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. My name is Kellen Olson. He's joined by Kevin Zimmer. Man, what's up, dude?
He's joined, you're joined, I'm joined.
I went second person. That's not third person or first person. Is that second person? Is that what second person is? I always know first and third person. What is second person?
Different person.
What about fourth person? Do we go that high?
It's in your brain.
There are 3 new persons on the Phoenix Suns basketball team. 2 new persons on the Phoenix Suns basketball team. A couple returnees. We're going to talk about free agency. The Suns did some stuff. It was mildly consequential to inconsequential, depending on how you want to react to it, which is what we are going to do right now. There was no surprise big move as of now. There was no trade out of nowhere that we didn't see for now. They did what we expected them to do, which was grab a backup point guard, grab a backup center. I think that center was a spot where at the end of last episode, I was wondering maybe they won't add a veteran. Makes sense they would add a veteran. And where I will start, Kevin, is I see a clear shift in directive. Last year, it was younger-ish players who were in these situations where they were in their mid to late 20s, had come off of a career year, quote-unquote, but they hadn't done so yet on a winner. And it was the Suns presenting Ida Watanabe, Keita Bates-Diop, by trade, Jordan Goodwin, some of these guys, the opportunity to show themselves on a winner, Drew Eubanks, and then if they did so, they were going to be in for a big payday. There was kind of a strategy there in mind. It did not go well. This time, I think it was a lot more intentional that we're just going to get Mason Plumlee, 10-plus year vet. We're going to get Monte Morris, who's been around a long time. And we're just going to get 2 proven commodities where maybe they're not the players they once were at this stage of their careers, but they're still going to be effective for what we need out of them, which ultimately is not that much.
Yeah, I think the word for me is reliability. Can you rely on this person to do what's asked of them, to move the ball to the big 3, to burn minutes, to be honest, because, last year it was a matter of you couldn't find the wing to just take some minutes. You couldn't find a backup center who you could trust without being frustrated and watching for more than 5 minutes or a couple possessions even. Like right as Drew Eubanks would come in, he might have 2 mistakes off the bat, and you just can't play even 15 minutes doing that. It's detrimental. So I think, like, when you look at the whole roster as, like, who do you rely upon, who's trustworthy, I think they're following kind of the, like, what the Clippers have done the past few years. Now, obviously, they had a lot of other issues with their big couple of stars and injuries and all that, but around them, like, there's a reason Nick Batum stays in this league so long, for one example. There's a reason even Mike Conley's probably still pretty good. There's a reason that he's underrated consistently at his level, because, like, just doing the right thing is so undervalued and not talked about enough. And it might not be flashy. Neither of these guys are flashy. Neither of these guys may end up playing more than 15 minutes. I think they both could a little bit, a tick above in different instances. But yeah, it's just about, we have added 2 guys we can rely upon.
I'll start with Monte Morris. We'll start with the point guard. Everyone that has been calling for a point guard, you got a point guard. You didn't even get a point guard who's not really a point guard. Monte Morris is, in fact, a point guard. The point guard that you got used to be one of the best backup point guards in the league. 5-6 years ago, Monte Morris breaks through with the Denver Nuggets, immediately establishes himself, like I said, as maybe the best backup point guard in basketball. I think a lot of people were fans of that. I think if you've heard us talk about the Denver Nuggets in the past, before they dealt Monte Morris, you and I were both very high on the skill set that he provided. Runs your stuff, can hit open shots, can put pressure on the rim, but just more so as a smaller, undersized point guard, as an orchestrator, a point guard's point guard. Assist-to-turnover ratio out of the wazoo. Him and Tyus Jones have been the 2 guys that have run away with that category over the last 5 years. I think his career assist-to-turnover ratio is somewhere in the low 5s, which is crazy. He only had, I believe, 7 turnovers all season last year, and 60-something assists. His assist-to-turnover ratio is nearly 9, I think. He takes care of the ball. But then things got weird. He got dealt by Detroit to Washington, where he played with Bradley Beal. So when you talk about this backup point guard and where I've been slotting him in my theoretical minutes rotation distribution, it's been playing with Bradley Beal at the start of quarters, and wouldn't you know it, That's where Bradley Beal is going to be playing with Monte Morris. And they, I think it was Brendan Clean from Locked On Suns had it down that 1 year they had an offensive rating north of 120 together in the minutes that they played. So offensively, they were quite good together. I think Monte basically played the brand of basketball there that we were used to. Then he gets dealt to Detroit, and then he has a serious quad injury come down, misses a couple of months, comes back for, I believe, 9 games. It was under 10 games with Detroit. Shows enough to get traded to Minnesota. Minnesota has this huge opening at backup point guard. I'm sure it's something that we brought up at the trade deadline pod then, and we brought it up previewing the series as well. He did not really solidify his role enough to be in the rotation for the playoffs consistently. It was kind of like, okay, what's going on there? This seemed like the perfect guy for you guys who haven't had a good backup point guard for a while now. What's going on? John Krasinski, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for The Athletic and mostly just does league-wide stuff for The Athletic now, tweeted that Morris was basically just trying to ramp himself up in the middle of the season and that he expects him to play much better this year. That was the only reason why I didn't have him in my Kyle Lowry campaign break off of the rest of these point guards, and why I had Monte Morris lumped in with those guys is because I just didn't really know what happened in this last 2 years and how well he played in those other situations. Where is he already starting to decline? Is he still the player that he was? Is he just a little worse than that? You do not need him to be the best backup point guard in basketball, or even one of the best. You just need him to be solid, reliable. And the great thing is he takes care of the ball and he shoots it well. I looked up his career catch and shoot numbers over the course of his career, 41.5% from 3. That's pretty darn good. We mentioned the assist to turnover ratio already. And the one thing I did notice from Minnesota and watching those games back with Phoenix and the playoff games, he was there pigeon on defense, don't get me wrong, when he was out there occasionally. But I thought he held up and at least did the work defensively as an undersized backup point guard. So checks for me all the way around, and most importantly, I think is at a stage in his career right now where he's not going to come in, and if his minutes drop to 8 one game, I don't think he's going to be upset about it, because you could have gotten really inspirational and wishful with the type of point guard that you wanted to get, but you needed to get a guy who was going to be okay with the role that he has, and it seems like this is the perfect fit where he resets, he reestablishes what he is in the league, plays here for a year, and then he starts to get paid a lot more money like he should after this year.
This might be crazy talk, and I'm not trying to completely overvalue him, because I thought, okay, he was with Kyle Lowry as I think he should be a minimum guy, but it's possible he could get paid a little more, especially because he's 28, 29. And is it crazy to ask the question if he could start at point guard? Because
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Why? Why?
Bradley Beal makes over $50 million a year. Bradley Beal is a top 50 player in the league at minimum when fully healthy and fully with himself. 2. 3, I thought Bradley Beal over several different times of the year that I outlined on this podcast, played pretty well and showed an ability to play there. But you can't just breeze by one. The NBA works the way that it does. He is not at the stage of his career yet where he should be considering coming off the bench, nor should he come off the bench.
I wasn't talking about him.
You're talking about Grayson Allen?
Yeah.
And going that small?
Mm-hmm. Because that's an easier conversation to have, Grayson Allen coming off the bench. But I'm just bringing this up because I think there's a lot of value in bumping one of those guys to the bench, and I don't think you can do it with Beal. And
the issue is how Book defended last year. Beal defended fine last year. It was not the same for Book.
I think the big question there is defense, and if Monte Morris can even tread water there or take on if De'Aaron Fox, you would have to defend him with Monte Morris. And that's my biggest thing. But offensively, I think it would be helpful to move Grayson to the bench. But I also see your point, and I think it makes sense for him to be the starter or the point guard, second quarter start with Beal, that kind of thing. And that's where him starting might not make sense. Now, you could start him and I'm not saying play him 30 minutes even. I'm saying play him 20
I get what
minutes.
you're saying.
Yeah.
But what I would need is I need Grayson to start too, because we need to get threes up. I need him, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal to combine for at least 20 threes a game. If that sounds like an outlandish number, it is something a couple of trios across the league have already done. And you're talking about 3 of the best shooters in the world, Grayson, Like if Book can get to 7 or 8, if Beal can get to 7 or 8, that just requires Grayson to take the 5 or 6 that he did last year, and I think he'll take even more. I think Bud will make this a priority, but if you formulate that number, like I would say 22. I want 22 out of those 3 guys. Okay, now you get Damian Lee off the bench, who's your shooter. We'll talk about that in a bit. You get 4 a game out of him. Now you're at 26 before even getting to anyone else on the roster. Now you're mid-30s. Now you're there. Like that's how you get to that number. So
yeah.
I need Grayson Allen to be starting for that reason alone. I know Monte would take a couple, and he wouldn't be shy about taking 3s, but I thought Grayson just was out of this world last year for what you needed out of him. And again, needing the 3-point shooting with Eric Gordon gone, losing that volume, you need Grayson to take even more this year, I think. So I would need him in there, but I'm not like sliding it because of who Monte Morris is as a player, which speaks to the value of the signing. They bring in Mason Plumlee at center. 34 years old. I was watching some of the, not highlights, but just like his baskets last year, and is not moving the way that he used to. He moves like a 34-year-old in the way that you would expect. And to be clear, Mason Plumlee was hyper athletic coming out of college, and in the first 7-8 years, he still moves pretty well, but it's just the dynamite athleticism that you remember from his career earlier in the year, in his time. That's just not who he is anymore. You are basically getting a replicate of what a worse version of what Jusuf Nurkic does on the floor. You are getting a very big body who is going to rebound, screen, roll, make good passes here and there, and move a little bit better defensively than you would expect. But that's all you're getting. So you're not getting some missing dynamic if you think that his passing is going to be this huge thing. It's very erratic. And he is comfortable with the ball is the way that I put it. Now, he's sometimes is too comfortable with the ball. Guess what? Jusuf Nurkic is the same way. I think it's very interesting that not only do they have 3 playmaking bigs, but they have basically a replicate. Again, I thought they could have gone. This is why I never thought the Andre Drummond signing made sense to me, because it's basically the 2 same basketball players. Drummond, not the playmaker that Nurkic is, but is still a guy who can pass. But it's not that I'm against the signing. It makes sense, but I just think it's an interesting strategy to not look for that extra different set. Because with Iguodaro, you get a little bit of a lob threat where he is a lob threat in some ways, not explosive, but a lob threat nonetheless. And then defensive versatility with his ability to switch, get out there a lot better. Plumlee's not going to bring that, but I think that they just valued, again, to your point, was it stability, reliability? What you used, whatever.
I wasn't listening.
Same thing. That's what they're valuing here over like a new skill set, right?
Yeah, Law Murray from The Athletic was on. I think it was Bickley and Murata for us. Maybe it was Burns and Gambo. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting. It's been a short, long week. But he was basically like, this is the best passing threesome at center that no other team has. But that's weird to me, to your point, because when Mike Budenholzer was introduced, it was to the point guard. He was asked about point guard, and his answer was, we need to be able to do different things. And to me, their center rotation does not do different things. Now, obviously, like relatively, but we've spent all the offseason talking about they either need a spacer at 5 or a guy who's just gonna, oh my gosh, train running down the tracks, heading to the rim. We need to cover him, and that's gonna open up shooters. They got none of those. Again, like the floor spacing stuff with this team and this roster, how it's coming together, is a bit concerning. Now, the Morris part, like he's, again, to your point, 38-39% shooter over his career. That's good. Like, there are a bunch of pretty good point guards still out on the market who are probably better point guards, better defenders, Dennis Smith Jr.'s, that type. But
only 1+ shooter off the bench.
But there are no good shooters, and it was him and Lowry were the shooters, and maybe you could throw Reggie Jackson in there if he gets waived or whatever from Charlotte. But
Royce is a trustworthy shooter, but is he someone that the defense is going to choose to leave open? Yes.
As we saw in the playoffs, it was not good in those limited minutes, and he was getting extended run with Grayson hurt in that series this past year. So, this team is going to have to figure out the shooting thing, and I guess that's where I'll just again mention Damian Lee's return, assuming he's pretty healthy and stuff after this past year off. Like,
he got the full year. He'll be good.
He's super important to this team.
Okay, roster-wise, this team has 14 slots filled, assuming Oso Ighodaro is indeed coming in on a standard contract, which when you're selected that high in the second round, maybe some second rounders selected later go on a two-way. I don't think he will. I think he'll be back on a standard deal, at least 14 slots. There's a lot of reporting out there that suggests that they want to get Josh Okogie back. To your point, I don't think that makes much sense. I think you need another shooter. You already have enough athletes who are moving around the floor. Maybe they look at it like David Roddy and Nas Little aren't even playable at this point, and they're not even thinking of them in their long-term picture of what the rotation could be, so they're not seeing it as redundant putting Okogie with those two guys as well. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, they have this open slot, and for now, you've got the starting five, which I will pencil in right now is just the five from last year. That's Booker, Beal, Allen, Durant, Nurkic. You've got three guys off the bench who are absolutely going to play. You got Royce O'Neal, Mason Plumlee, and Monte Morris. I think there's a non-zero chance Oso Ighodaro is the backup center from the jump. I'm going to say it again. I think he has a lot of plug-and-play stuff, and again, I think the redundancy is interesting when it's done it.
Hey,
it's not a
people
negative
get injured.
for me,
people get injured,
but he's going to have a chance to play. But basically, you've got 8 guys locked in right now. Last year, it was 4. Like, we were sure Grayson Allen was going to stick in the rotation, probably, right? Like, Drew Eubanks was the backup center, I guess, so that was locked in.
Because you had to.
Yeah, I guess Josh Okogie was pretty firmly in the rotation at that point. Maybe Keita Bates-Diop was, maybe he wasn't. But it was a lot less concrete than it is right now. So you've got 8 guys, and then you've got 6 guys for now fighting for those last 2 spots in the rotation, the 9th and the 10th spot. You got Nas Little, you got David Roddy, you got Bol, you got Oso Ighodaro. Who am I forgetting? Damian Lee's back, and then Bol is back as well. That's all of the guys. They re-signed Bol. We should mention that. Someone who would have earned a little bit of a pay grade, not a payday, but a pay raise on the market.
Taken multi-years, yeah.
Probably would have gotten a 2-year deal somewhere at least, but he comes back, and it was smart for him, and it was a no-brainer for the Suns because he started to look like he was emerging into something. But with your concerns on this team and my concerns with this team, yes, Bol shooting numbers were good, but they weren't within 10 feet of him all year, and that is going to continue next year. Teams are going to just leave him open. So spacing-wise, how does that work? I think that Ryan Dunn is someone you want to get on the court, and I think that those 2 guys will be competing for time. I mentioned Bol twice. Dunn was the other name that I forgot.
Yeah, I'm checked out.
But yeah, that 9th and 10th guy is probably between those 2.
Yeah.
Like, not as little, I guess, but Gerald's reporting today suggesting they might consider cutting him if they see the right guy available. That I don't think they're going to cut him because he makes way too much money. But the fact that it's even being considered tells me that it's on the outside looking in, not only for his trade value, but just his chances of playing next year. Maybe Bud loves him. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, you just need those 8 guys. So they're already in a good spot. But if Dunn or Bol can emerge and become a serious part of the rotation, that would be good for them. And then the other name we haven't mentioned yet, I think Damian Lee at this point just has to play because they need another shooter. So unless they're going to find another shooter with that final spot, we'll see. Taurean Prince was the wish list item for Suns fans. He just got signed by the Bucks while we're recording this on a minimum deal. Joe Ingles might have been another guy to consider. He was on a minimum deal, a bigger wing that can shoot. Those typically aren't available for the minimum, but they could use one right now. But we'll see what they do over the next week or 2.
Summer League?
Gonna be fun. Colin Gillespie signed on a 2-way, a Villanova guard who does Villanova guard things.
Oh, we should probably tease what you're doing next week. But
Jalen Bridges, Boo Buie, Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, their best summer league team in a half decade. 2019, Cam Johnson didn't even play because I remember being in my hotel room and getting the text that Cam Johnson's not playing. It was like a nice heads up from someone that was just like, hey, I know you're out here. This sucks, but Cam's not playing. Like, oh, come on, man. Give me a break. I will be in Las Vegas, not for Summer League. I will be there from Saturday to Wednesday. Team USA is holding their mini camp in Las Vegas before going to the Paris Olympics. They play 4 exhibition games, 5, I want to say. There's one here in Vegas. It's against Canada on Wednesday.
Loaded.
And yeah, that's a really good team too. No Zach Edey though. I was excited to see Zach Edey. He's going to do summer league things, I guess, instead. And then they go to I want to say Abu Dhabi or something for 2 games. And then they go to Paris and play 2 more games. And then it's the Olympics. But yeah, going to be talking to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant about Team USA. I'll be there for all the scrums and stuff. So whenever we talk next, end of the month, start of August or whatever, I'm sure we'll kind of go over what we say. I guess we'll be back if they say some controversial things to me or in that scrum. I doubt that they will. I think they'll just be fun to talk to, and it's a bucket list thing for me, man. I'm very excited. Team USA, that's the dream. Not going to Paris, though.
That didn't get past the accounting department here?
Didn't make it in the budget, no.
Okay.
Didn't qualify. It's okay. I'll be up at actually the schedule's pretty nice. It's 9 a.m. noon games. Nothing crazy. I was up at 4 a.m. last time watching. I didn't give a crap. That's fun. Do you think that the adjustment with the FIBA ball is harder than they make it out to be, easier than they make it out to be, or do you think that their concerns are justified?
Just hoop, man. It looks like it's a different ball because of the colors, and it makes me like, oh, it's clanking off the rim weird, but it's because it has different colors on it. Yeah.
If I used the same type of keyboard for 16 straight years and then had to use a random new keyboard for 3 weeks, I would get used to it after 2 weeks, but it would take me a while to get used to it.
That's a good analogy.
Book's adjustment last time was tough because he gets off the plane and they're playing the next day. So he's been shooting with the NBA ball because our season was still going on.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's already shooting with it now. I think it was Tyrese Halliburton who I saw pictures of who was working out earlier this month.
And you noticed he had the ball?
That he had the FIBA ball already, which is that's smart stuff.
That is smart stuff.
Way to go.
Devin's just been playing cornhole and Flagstaff.
As he should.
Just kidding.
Hey.
He probably does other stuff.
Caitlin Clark got him to, not many things probably getting him to come down from Flagstaff, rightfully so, but he was there to see the GOAT versus the Rook, as it was teased. Wish I could have gone, but I was like, free agency's going to be crazy. It always is at the start. And yeah, we won't get into that, but clearly there was a memo or something that was like, yo, chill out because we waited an hour for Andre Drummond.
Don't drop everything in massive scheduled texts, tweets this time around, guys.
That's the fascinating part. Was it to the reporters? Was it to the teams? Was it to the agents? Who did they make take the lead?
Or maybe the Drew Eubanks controversy this past year really scared people, and that penalty worked.
I don't think it scared people, but I think that the Suns and the Knicks and teams that have been punished for this recently were like, what do you mean? Everyone does this. Why are you picking on us? So they had to make it fair in some kind of ways. I get it, but next year we know now that at 3 o'clock we don't have to be waiting by our keyboard wondering. We would go on NBA-wide kind of coverage here and recap, but there's a lot left to get done. It's only July 3rd, but most of the time we've seen a ton of stuff. But the main thing holding everything up right now appears to be the next big deals, trades or signings. I think DeMar, there was the DeJounte Murray deal we'll talk about on the next episode, so that probably means Brandon Ingram's out. We're waiting to see. Bruce Brown's going to get traded, I would think.
Is the Buddy Hield thing still in the works with the Warriors right now?
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates on that. Yeah, the Warriors are a fun team we'll talk about later. They've done some weird stuff. They got signed and trade with Kyle Anderson. They did a sign and trade with Buddy Hield.
They're still trying.
They're
Bless
doing
their
stuff.
hearts.
Klay Thompson's a Dallas Maverick. That's a weird sentence. What was the other one? There was one more. Or Cam Johnson is the other name where we're like, it makes a lot of sense that a team should trade for him. But we'll see. I would be scared of OKC doing that. That's what I was saying on the radio. It was like, what if they just offer 4 first-round picks for Lowry Markkanen or whatever and just go, we're just going to go for it this year, even more so.
Hot take. The Lakers have done nothing, but all things aside about nepotisms and such, I do think it's a nice story that a father gets to play with the son. That's super cool.
Seeing James Jr. on the back of the jersey was cool.
Everyone can stop making jokes also about how it looks like a B-rated movie, a C-rated movie, or whatever you call that, B-list, C-list. The bad movies where they make Chris Paul
the one that was funny was this looks like a Party City costume, LeBron James costume outline. That one was funny. But yeah, the jokes are going to be there until
they are
for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, that sucks. So I was saying on the radio, what sucks is if he's good right away, because then people are going to think he's playing because of his dad. It's like, no, he's playing because he's good.
Yeah.
Oh well, other fish to fry. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, I think. I don't know. I mean, if something happens, you can expect us to be here, right?
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
I wish I could pop my back like you, man. I'm still not very good at it.
I'll give you a lesson after
There's
this.
something waiting back there to get done, and it's just not going to happen. All right, see you later, everyone.